Okay, so you are a world expert in birds' mating system. What's interesting about it, and what can we learn from it?
What's interesting? Well, sex is interesting, and for a long time, ever since Darwin, people thought that birds were monogamous, strictly faithful, and really at the beginning of the kind of behavioural ecology revolution in the mid 1970s, people began to question that assumption. And initially, by looking at how birds behave, particularly colouring individuals, and seeing that some females mated with more than one male and some males mated with more than one female, people began to realise that maybe birds weren't quite as monogamous as we first thought. And then along comes DNA fingerprinting, and that for the first time provides us with an unequivocal measure of parentage. And that showed that, contrary to being monogamous, the vast majority of birds were actually promiscuous to some extent. So although birds breed as monogamous pairs, they both engage in what are called extra pair matings. And that provides us with a wonderful window into the process of sexual selection, which was one of Darwin's greatest ideas. So the idea of birds being promiscuous and the concept of sperm competition has broad implications for the whole of biology. And it turns out that finding a monogamous female in any species is the exception rather than the rule.
And what about men? Could it be that monogamous habits are a culturally acquired traits?
To some extent, social monogamy in humans probably is culturally acquired, in the sense that the church probably imposed marriage on humans. But in fact, most of the evidence that we have, and there isn't very much, suggests that simple cultures before there was much major cultural influence weren't that promiscuous. And the best evidence for that is that in those animal species where promiscuity is very prevalent, the males have relatively large testes. And if you look at human testis size relative to body size, it's pretty modest. So something like a chimpanzee, which is well known to be promiscuous, has huge testes. A gorilla, which is pretty monogamous, has relatively small testes. And humans fall closer to the gorilla position than they do to the chimpanzee position.